Hey, Nick.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on? What are you doing?
Well, I think you know this. The Empire Magazine article or edition dropped today. The
Yeah.
special edition for the prequels came out today. So I was checking that out, looking at it. It's got tons of crazy good stuff in it. They even asked Ian McDiarmid about Palpatine having a granddaughter.
Ooh, just the thought of Palpatine having sex is really disturbing to me.
It's not great, and that's pretty much what he said too. Yeah, it's not something to get into.
Yeah, execute Order 69, right?
Pete, come on now.
Sorry.
You know what? This is ATG Live.
Well, welcome to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars conversation and news and special guests and off-color disturbing jokes. I really want to apologize for that, but I do need to give a shout out to our friend Matt from Enid, who sent that as a voicemail a little bit earlier this week. He now gets a writing credit for the show. So if this wins a digital Emmy, he gets a little bit of shine on that. So how you doing, Nick? What's going on?
Well, until about 27 seconds ago, I was doing pretty good, and then you put that image into my mind. So I'm gonna have to drink that one away. But other than that, I'm doing fantastic, and I'm ready for another great show.
That's awesome, man. So hey, I know that there was a week that we had a bunch of more Star Wars news. What are we keeping our eye on this week?
Well, obviously, the Phantom Menace is coming back to the theaters, which is very exciting.
Yeah, and Ben Mendelsohn said that maybe he might be coming back to Andor. We don't know.
Yeah. Similarly, another beloved Star Wars actor, Samuel L. Jackson, had some things to say about Mace Windu.
Ooh, and we also got some word on some of the feminine side of the Bad Batch. So we'll be digging into that tonight. So all that said, Nick, what's going on? What else do we need to talk about?
Lots
we
of
have a guest, right?
We do. We're going to get to the news in just a few minutes after our first break, but we also have an outstanding guest. He is the creator of Tom Spina Designs and Regal Robot. They're the ones that are constantly filling all of our feeds with amazing prop replicas, creatures, things that I desperately want to fill up this already overcrowded space I have behind me. They've got some exciting new Star Wars stuff coming out. They've had some indie things come out recently. So Tom's going to be on to tell us all about it.
I can't wait to see it. They just did a live stream from Facebook today. So if you were there and you want to get involved in this conversation, please make sure to come back and do that. That'll be coming up at the bottom of the hour. But first, we got to do a little bit of housekeeping. As you know, this is where we are every Thursday night live at 8 p.m. East, 5 p.m. Pacific. So which means we would love it if you subscribed to our YouTube channel. So if this is your first time visiting us, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and hit the like or the reminder, because we're hitting the beats on Thursday nights and you don't want to miss that. We are at 932 subscribers on YouTube. We're trying to get to 1,000. Thanks to your help, we keep on climbing and climbing. So make sure to tell a friend, tell a family member, tell a stranger on the street, hey, go and subscribe to ATG Live on YouTube at the SSW Network.
Absolutely. And if you have already subscribed on there, you want to keep up, if you forget to hit the reminder bell, the only other thing you can do is follow us on social media. You know, we're all still there, even with Lent starting and people are trying to give up social media and trying to cut back. We know we're all still hanging out there. We're sneaking off to the bathroom to look at our phones, whatever it is that we're doing. So find us on social media. On Twitter, we are at ATGcast. Everywhere else, we are the SSW Network. As we say every week, the easiest thing to do is to go to our website, theSSWnetwork.com. You can find blog articles, links to all the recent shows. One of the things we always want to highlight is our merchandise. There's a merch tab. You click on that. You're going to get all of our weird t-shirt designs. You can become a shill yourself. Whatever it is that you need on a pint glass on a t-shirt, you can get it there. And also, as a reminder, if you use the code SHILL15 at checkout, you're going to get 15% off that first order.
we are providing the savings on top of everything else. So while you're there, also check out our Patreon program. For as little as $3 a month, you can support this show. You can support Around the Galaxy, Podcast The Wills, and you get all kinds of benefits. You get free swag. You get a deeper discount at the SSW Network shop. And possibly the most exciting is you also get a private link for when we interview our guests on Podcast The Wills and Around the Galaxy. And you are part of the chat, and we may use your question when we talk to some of these great guests.
Absolutely. Speaking of being a part of the chat, we have one other way for you to get involved, and we push this every week. We've been sharing it at the end. We continue to venture through, the outward journey of Matt and Enid, and that's our voicemail line. Give us a call anytime during the week, middle of the night, when you have a Star Wars thought. Bad Batch is coming back next week. We want to hear your thoughts about those episodes. So give us a call. Save it in your phone, 504-321-1501. Call us, leave us a voicemail. Whatever your thought is, there's a great opportunity or a great chance that we're going to play it in our intercepted transmissions at the end of the show. So one more time, 504-321-1501. Call us up. Tell us some Star Wars things.
That's absolutely right. And I'm going to spring this on Nick. He didn't know this, but starting next week, we're going to pick a caller of the week. And if we use your call, we will send you a free Star Wars sticker of some sort from the ATG network. So be the caller of the week, 504-321-1501. But that is enough of the housekeeping. We got Tom Spina coming to hang out with us. We got a bunch of news to take a look at. So we will get to that just as soon as we come back from this quick break. We'll be back with more ATG Live. Welcome back to ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. Thanks for hanging out with us. You get the news, you get the analysis, you get to comment, you get to leave your voicemails, and you get amazing guests. We have Tom Spina coming up at the bottom of the hour. He'll be hanging out with us, giving us a peek at the new Wampa, talking about Indiana Jones. Also, he's going to tell us a little story about his favorite restoration, so I cannot wait to get to that. But, Nick, we have a ton of headlines, so why don't we get to them now?
Let's do it.
Well, The Phantom Menace is returning to theaters. It was announced last week that in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the release of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, the movie will be back in theaters for a limited time, starting on May 3rd, 2024. StarWars.com made the announcement and shared an all-new poster for the film by artist Matt Ferguson. You can see his work also on the final Indiana Jones poster, as well as the anniversary releases of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Originally released on May 19th, 1999. I was going to make that a trivia question, but opted against it. The first Star Wars movie since Return of the Jedi, 16 years before, was honestly met with less than glowing reviews, but has since become a beloved part of the franchise, especially for the millennial fans. So, Nick, I am really excited to see it coming back to the theaters, to see Phantom Menace. I'm excited for people who grew up on it but never saw it in the theaters to be able to get that opportunity. I'm excited to take my son and experience that loud Sebulba pod racer at top speed coming all the way through. But I also think there's a great opportunity for them to leverage this as a marketing campaign for the Acolyte. The Acolyte takes place in a brand new era for a lot of Star Wars fans. So, Nick, what are you most excited about? What do you expect to see when we get here?
Well, I am also excited for it to come back, and I'm excited for a little bit different reason. And you mentioned when Phantom Menace came out, it was not met with the most stellar reaction, certainly from fans of our age and our era and our generation. So I'm a little bit ashamed to say I was a little bit one of those fans when it came out. Not quite like what we see today, but I went through a pretty solid phase of saying out loud, that's not my Star Wars. I don't recognize that. But like so many, and to borrow a term, I am a reformed prequelist. I do love those movies. They have grown on me over the years. So if I'm being perfectly honest, selfishly, I'm really excited to have that theater experience with, I guess, what I'm calling new eyes, coming
Yep.
into it with a new appreciation for this film, to see it on the big screen, to not be, and I saw it multiple times when it came out then, even though it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
But just to come into it ready to enjoy it. And, I'm hopefully going to take some of my kids, and it'll just be a big, fun Star Wars. Anytime you get Star Wars on a big screen, it's fun. And to be able to kind of re-engage with it in a, what I guess I would call a healthier place, is something I'm very much looking forward to.
Well, you bring up a point that I haven't even thought about before, and I think it's great. Yeah, I think people. So when I saw, I've mentioned it a million times. I was there in New York City for the premiere of Phantom Menace, and I remember walking out of the theater and the mixed reaction from the celebrity crowd that was there. My own personal mixed reaction, as you said, to as well, reformed prequelists. I remember trying to talk myself into enjoying it. I'm now a huge fan of Phantom Menace. But you're right, to have this opportunity to go into a theater and see it with people who are excited to see it. We know what we're getting, right? There's not going to be
Right.
disappointment. Nobody's going to walk in and be like, oh, that wasn't what I thought it was going to be at all. It's people who want to go and want to see it on the big screen again. And as you said, I'm going to be one of them. I can't wait to take my son to see it. And my daughter, if she wants to go, but I don't think she's going to want to go. But I'm excited to go and see it that way.
It's going to be a big, fun Star Wars family reunion. Like you said, the people that don't like it hopefully aren't going to go show up just to complain about it there. So those of us that are going to go, it's just going to be fun. Like, holy crap, look what we get to watch again.
Absolutely. I love that as a way to approach it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as we keep moving along, Orson Krennic is being cagey about his return to Star Wars. Last week, Diego Luna posted on his Instagram that he had completed shooting his part of season 2 of the critically acclaimed Disney Plus series Andor. The show, of course, fills in the years before Rogue One, but is also about one of the main antagonists from our favorite film, Rogue One, Ben Mendelsohn, who played Imperial officer in charge of the Death Star. Orson Krennic was in the movie, and he was asked by comicbook.com if he was going to be returning, to which he replied, quote, "As for being approached by Lucasfilm, no, I have not been approached for something like this, but I would be very willing to explore it further." End quote. That's always encouraging. He's up for it. He's whatever. A few days later, he was talking to Collider, and he decided to play a little bit coy and said, "What, Andor? I mean, maybe. Have they shot it already?" As we know, Andor season 2 is planned to follow the 4 years leading up directly to the beginning of Rogue One, and is supposed to drop on Disney Plus next year in 2025. Pete, I know you personally are a huge Orson Krennic fan.
I am.
What does your gut tell you? Is the man with the second best cape game in Star Wars coming back?
second best to Lando, I'm guessing, right?
Exactly,
That's where you go. Yeah, okay, of course. Yeah, he's coming back. He's definitely coming back. I think because this is the exact game that Ewan McGregor played for years. McGregor played it for years. Coming up to the Obi-Wan series, they caught up with Liam Neeson, who just happened to have his lightsaber on his desk. Yeah. I think he's coming back, and I think it makes sense. I think because again, we've talked about this 100 times. It's one of those series that when we first heard about it, I thought we don't need this series. But what I love about it is not only are we learning about Andor and Cassian and his role, we're learning Luthen Rail, but we're seeing the inner workings and the behind the scenes of the Galactic Empire and the politics. And the politics as part of the story for Rogue One is often overlooked and forgotten. But to me, that's what makes Rogue One such a great. I love the war movie aspect and the amazing battle scene at the end, but the politics and watching Orson just kind of have to deal with all that. Do you think he's coming back?
It's a target-rich environment for exactly those kind of stories. We know coming in, he's competing against Tarkin. He's the younger buck. He is, trying to get a toehold on who's going to be in charge. He's not afraid initially to go toe-to-toe with Vader. It's a very, very, very compelling character. So it makes sense that, as you say, we're seeing the building of the Empire. Something that I've talked about before that I love that Bad Batch does so much is it's building those earlier parts of the Empire when you see people being registered with chain codes and you're seeing the political machinations of how did it end up this way? We see it even in The Mandalorian, the ineptitude of the Republic. How did this happen? Because it's a big ass galaxy, pardon the expression. And how are they going to keep up? So do I think he's coming back? I'll take the contrary position and say, no, I don't think he is. I think that, he's playing coy. He's a funny guy. He likes to be a little bit jokey sometimes. But I think the line saying he hasn't been contacted by Disney or Lucasfilm is a little more intent or intentional than kind of the playful, I don't know. I mean, they haven't called me. Wait, have they shot that? Like, that's a little more playful.
Yeah.
But that initial first reaction of, I haven't heard from him, So I'm going to say I don't think he is coming back. I think that, I will welcome him back if he comes, but I don't know that he's going to make it. I think maybe he's got something else cooking.
And I think, and I don't disagree with you, but I also think just the fact that Diego Luna is finished with his shooting doesn't mean that they're done shooting. And sure. I would love to see him get some redemption for Secret Invasion, because my goodness, that was a hard show to watch, and I would hate that to be his last Disney Plus piece. Sure.
Fair enough. Totally fair. We're on your side.
We're rooting for you, Orson Krennic.
Exactly.
All right. So our next news story. Here we go. Samuel L. Jackson says Mace Windu is not dead. After teasing the internet last week, Empire Magazine dropped the news that they were publishing this issue that we talked about at the top of the show, dedicated to the celebration of the 25 years of Star Wars prequels, featuring in-depth interviews with most of the cast from all three movies. One in particular that set social media abuzz was an interview with Samuel L. Jackson, Mace Windu himself, and he said he was asked about his memorable scene where the newly revealed Sith Lord Emperor Palpatine throws him out the window, and presumably to his death. Jackson replied, quote, "He's not dead." They also asked him if he'd be interested in a Mace Windu Disney Plus series, and he said, quote, "Everything, yes." So Mace Windu's fate has been hotly debated by Star Wars fans in social media for years. And as we know in Star Wars, no one's ever really gone. Nick, I would love to see Samuel L. Jackson back, but I think Star Wars has built this really bad habit of bringing back characters that have died. I think it worked for Maul, and as you know, my position on Rise of Skywalker, I didn't love that they did it with Palpatine. I think there's this weird is Tech going to be coming back in Bad Batch? I don't know. Star Wars refuses to kill people, and I think that hurts the impact of the storytelling. What about you?
Bring him back. Why not? Let's go. Let's get everybody back. Let's get Lando back. Let's get Lobot back. Let's get, let's bring back, was it Ula that fell in the pit in Jabba's palace? Let's bring them all back, because at this point, there's a character for everyone in Star Wars. Somebody loves Lando. Somebody loves Krennic. Somebody loves Mace Windu. I'm not necessarily that guy. I've got some noted public issues with Mace.
Yes,
but at this point, let's go. Let's give everybody a spinoff series. Let's fill up Disney Plus. So they have to create Star Wars Plus, and let's give every one of them, I need another subscription service, like I need another hole in my head. But if we keep filling it up with Mace Windu, with, give Janna a series, give, what's Kerry Russell's character's name? Yeah, I'm a good Star Wars fan. I don't even know her name. Anyhow, yeah, let's go. Let's bring Mace Windu back.
I think, right? But
Daft Punk.
But I mean, respond to this though. Like, how do you feel about? I think that was one of the cool things about Star Wars was like people could die, and now everybody lives. So let's talk about Samuel L. Jackson. Let's talk about Mace Windu specifically. How does it add to the story, and how could they do it in a way? I mean, look, I know they want to do it because. Look, when Samuel L. Jackson says he wants to come back, you find a way, probably.
Somebody listens, correct. I mean, he got a purple lightsaber. Nobody had a purple lightsaber.
Yeah,
till Sam Jackson said, "No, man, mine's going to be purple."
That's right. So do they bring him back? And how do you do it? Do you do it like, do you bring him back in Book of Boba Fett season 2 or the Mando movie? Or do you de-age him and do a Mace Windu, young Mace Windu trials or whatever? I don't know.
Does he become Maul Part 2? He fell out of a window. He fell out of a high place. He lived in the junk for a long time. And then he comes back as like this crazy, old desert man. And somebody's like, wait, holy crap. I think that's Mace Windu. Like, I don't know where the avenue to plug him back in is. I think that could be, as much of a problem as anything. Is how do you plug it in where it doesn't literally feel like, hey, Sam Jackson wanted a cameo, so ta-da.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it would play nicely, possibly into a Boba Fett story just from a revenge standpoint, but
Okay.
I don't know. I really do have reservations about Star Wars not killing off any characters. They need the drama, they need the impact. So
Well, apparently that's why we need to read the High Republic, because my understanding is everybody dies in the High
everybody
Republic.
dies, right?
Yeah.
Things don't end well ever in the High
Ever again.
Republic.
No happiness there. So moving right along, Women of the Bad Batch are featured in the Gizmodo piece that just came out. This time next week, in fact, next Thursday, we will have already seen the first 3 episodes of the final season of the Bad Batch. I'm very excited for that personally. Ahead of that series, of course, there's lots of press going on. Jennifer Corbett and Brad Rao were asked about some of the returning characters. Fennec Shand is going to return as voiced by Ming-Na Wen. And Corbett also implied that the future Boba Fett partner could be part of a rescue of Omega from Imperial custody. They also talked about Amiri Carr, who was revealed to be a clone as well in the closing moments of season 2. Corbett shares that it will be great to see the dynamic between her and Omega because they both have different types of connections with their clone brothers. Finally, as they were talking, and part of what set the internet on fire when the Bad Batch trailer dropped a couple weeks ago, is the return of Asajj Ventress, who appeared on the screen in the Clone Wars, and was reinforced that they stayed true to the novel Dark Disciple, which a lot of people are concerned about in relation to her animated origins. So lots of excitement about Bad Batch 3. Here's what I love from this, and of course, I'm going to pay attention to this because I live in a house full of women.
Right.
They are highlighting so many amazing female characters in the lead up to this show.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask you to pick a favorite. Who is your favorite female Bad Batch character, and what do you want to see out of that character in this final season?
All right. So my favorite female Bad Batch character, it's easy. It's Omega. Just because I love the way she says the names of all the guys in the Bad Batch. I can't get enough of that. But I really do love Fee as a character. She just adds she's like a female Han Solo in a way, in that I think she's lucky more than she's good in many cases. But I will say my biggest problem with her is that I only see and hear Wanda Sykes, and Wanda's
That's
great.
right.
Wanda's amazing, but she's got one of those voices. Like it's like Tom Cruise. You see him in any movie, it's like, oh, that's cool. It's Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah.
You hear
if you
her.
put Tom Hanks into animated Star Wars, you're going to go, why is Woody in Star Wars?
Exactly. But I think the biggest potential, honestly, comes from Emery Carr, who is a clone, and that just adds so much dimension. Does that mean like she's an older version of Omega? Is that what's going on there? And of course, that also means that she and Omega are, I'd say Omega, right? We have to get back in that mindset.
On
brand. She and Omega are Boba Fett's sister. Boba Fett. At the same time, now we've seen and listen to them like tinfoil hatting and red threading all over the board here. We're bringing back Fennec Shand, who I like as a character. She's fine.
Right.
She had the coolest scene in Mandalorian when she's like flying backwards and shooting awesome stuff. But to bring her back, and bounty hunter version of Ventress gives you a perfect opportunity to reintroduce Boba Fett. And which, man, if they do that, then we've got all kinds of Star Wars connections. And then you're also maybe making that connection directly between Boba Fett and when he found Fennec in the sands of Tatooine. So I think I think there's a lot of opportunity with the female characters. You put me on the spot, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's your favorite female character?
For me, it is Fennec Shand, and that was not a character really that I had much association with before Book of Boba Fett. While Book of Boba Fett is not my favorite of all the Star Wars things that have come out in the last 10 years or so, she was one of my favorite parts of the Book of Boba Fett. She has similarly that cool vibe. She kind of is the cool version of what Boba Fett was to us when we were kids.
Yeah.
Like he was quiet, he was cool, he didn't say hardly anything. And Fennec is that cool, and of course Ming-Na Wen is the one that brings that to that character. And she doesn't have to say a lot, but she's effective, and you're just like, she's getting stuff done. And when she shows up, it's either good news or bad news. There's no in between. So I'm excited to see that extend out, and what she did in the second season of Bad Batch. For that character, I'm totally here for that.
Yeah, I think she's a really interesting character. She's been an interesting character since we first got to see her in Mando. So I think it's cool. I'm all for it. So
without a doubt.
Well, that wraps up the news for us this week. Thanks for hanging out. We have a special guest, Mr. Tom Spina from Regal Robot, coming up after the break. So we will be right back with more ATG Live.
Where are those transmissions you sent?
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
A communications disruption can mean only one thing.
Okay, I'll hold.
We are back with ATG Live, your Thursday night hangout for all things Star Wars. Nick, I have to say, one of the things that I love about this new format is, we talk news, we talk about headlines, we do all the nerdy stuff in person, face to face, that we do in Twitter and on our text. But then we get to bring in amazing guests who have really exciting things to say. So before I take up too much time, why don't I just bring in our special guest, Mr. Tom Spina. Tom, how are you? I forgot the Marshall, the PRS guitars.
Oh yeah.
Are those? Is that a?
It's actually
it's a
not a
Van Halen,
PRS.
right?
That's a Music Man, but
Nice.
still, I respect that. PRS is great. Yeah, I was just taken aback by that super melodramatic open there, like the intro.
Yeah.
That's right. Got to hype you up just right.
You can say, what? You couldn't get John Williams to come in and do something?
Well, he's in retirement. It's hard to get him to do anything these days.
His supposed retirement.
That's what he tells you guys. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's
we
right.
told you he's retired.
Yeah, no problem. I can do that movie. You guys.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Tom knows things, though. Well, Tom, it's wonderful to have you here. We're always excited when we get to talk to you. You've been a good friend of our shows for a couple of years now, and certainly with Podathon, you support that. In case there's somebody here who doesn't know Regal Robot, who doesn't know Tom Spina, other than the person who haunts all of our checkbooks every time a new post pops up with a new product, tell us a little bit about who you are, what Regal Robot is.
Sure. I mean, if there are people like that out there, I mean, what a terrible, pitiable existence they must lead. I'm Tom Spina. I have two companies, Tom Spina Designs and Regal Robot. With Tom Spina Designs, we make and sculpt and create, and we do everything from bronze sculptures, wax figures, monsters for TV shows and things, and commercials and whatever else, and restore the original props that were actually used in all of our favorite films. And even make some really fun stuff for theme parks and stuff when those fun jobs come along. Regal Robot kind of grew out of some stuff we were doing there, and we developed this long relationship with the Lucasfilm Archives and with Lucasfilm and Disney over the years, doing all these other projects. And so with Regal Robot, we get to take those FX skills that we had and put them to use making cool stuff for people to take home. And that stuff happens to be licensed, official Star Wars and Indiana Jones stuff that ranges anywhere from really weird and unique decor and low price stuff that just about everybody can afford, to really, really high end crazy replicas that are on a different side of the spectrum. And we have a lot of fun doing it.
I love the stuff that you've made in the smaller form stuff, because they're just like cool things that you're like, I didn't realize I needed that. Like I have the little timer bomb that the Mando has,
Mandalorian grav charge magnet.
Yep. And I also have over here, I have why can't I think of the word now? The thing that you put on the robot so they don't
restraining
bolt.
Droid restraining bolt. Yes.
Yes.
I almost called it a droid collar. Oh, what about
wow, you're making stuff up now. That's awesome.
That's right.
And you also make miniature versions of some of your things. Like I have the small Tauntaun head on a magnet.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. But and you get all that stuff at regalrobot.com, right?
That's
All that
correct.
stuff. You
Yeah,
can find
thank
all
you
that
for
stuff
bringing that up.
right there. And like you said, it does range. It's like $25 to hide it from your wife kind of money, which
Right,
is
yeah. like literally like $20 to $20,000 is on the site. Legitimately, those two numbers are basically on like $19.99 and $19.99. You're like it's that kind of range. But you're talking about somebody who's getting maybe a magnet of a mythosaur. Or a tin sign of like really cool vintage poster, all the way up to a life-sized Chewbacca that is Peter Mayhew size, fully haired with a bowcaster and all of this stuff. That's quite a different point on the spectrum in terms of the amount of work that goes into it.
And it all looks great. And honestly, the 1999 things look just as good as the big stuff. So
I appreciate that. We put a lot of heart into even the small stuff, and a big part of what we do is that nearly everything is made by hand by the crew in New York. If you're getting a magnet and it's resin, someone had to first we had to model that original master. We had to make molds. Someone's pouring it. Someone's pulling it, sanding it, gluing the magnet, and hand painting it. And that same level of care applies to both those magnets and then the crazy high-end stuff and all of the collectibles in between.
Well, and you've done so many. I'm sorry, Pete, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, you've done so many custom things, and you can see those on your website. You guys show that stuff off sometimes. I can speak from experience and say even that stuff is amazing. I had the opportunity to visit Brian and Holly Fry's Cabe's Oasis Cantina and got a chance to sit in some of the chairs and check out the tables and some of the other cool stuff that you guys have done. And it's absolutely just first rate. So anybody else that's building a cantina at your house, Tom's your guy.
That's it. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That Holly is one of my favorite people on the planet. And oddly enough, we met at Star Wars Celebration in Orlando, probably 2017, maybe. It was the first show that we did with Regal Robot. And at the time, we had a coffee table that looked like the action figure carry case. And when you open the coffee table, we even had dividers in it. And those dividers were actually sized to 12-inch action figures, just in case anybody wanted to use it that way. And so she came by the booth and she's freaking out because there's a dewback that we turned into a sofa. And so she's losing her mind for that. And then I'm like, oh, take a look at this coffee table. And she's like, is that the action figure? And I open it up and she sees the divider and she shrieks. She's like, Jesus Christ on a cracker. And just loses her mind. And I was like, I will go to battle for this woman. This is this is a friend for life now. And we have since had some wonderful long chats on her podcast, if I can mention that.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And off. And she's genuinely her and Brian are just outstanding people. And working on their cantina, for their house was a dream. We've done a lot of that stuff over the years, both doing stuff like either for sets or for people or for homes, decking out home theaters and things like that. And, sometimes it's as small as just doing pieces that would enhance someone's place. Sometimes it's doing whole rooms, turning someone's house into a cave, turning something else into with Death Star theming and stuff, and then other times she had this basic plan for the room and said like, what can you do? What can you bring to this? And let us dream. And we sketched up a whole bunch of different ideas, and then she picked one she likes, and then we dialed it in and wound up making a whole bunch of pieces for it that were a lot of fun.
That's amazing.
It's fantastic.
That's so cool. And not only that though, but you got your start, or I don't know if you got your start or not, but you do a lot of work with restorations. I have to ask briefly about is restoring the mask for Tobias Forge from Ghost. I didn't realize you.
Oh,
I'm a big Ghost fan, but
that came out of left field. I mean, there's like
you're like
Star Wars stuff. Like he's from Spielberg movies. He's like Ghost,
right? Let's talk
Patrick Swayze movie, and he was like, no.
Yeah, no, you redid the
he looks older than
pottery,
he
right?
must be. I thought, So that was a case where that was for a collector. It was someone who had one of the stage worn masks.
Yeah,
and that's a mix. So I would call that conservation rather than restoration, and that's a whole spectrum of what we do. It's anywhere from preventative to stabilizing to minor restoration to entirely restorative type work, depending on what the piece is, what it needs, what the person's like, what their feelings are about that stuff. Every collector is different. And in this case, we had someone who had this mask, but gravity is a harsh mistress, as the tick used to say on the old cartoon show. And so over time, it's starting to droop, it's starting to pull away. It's silicone, that's a heavy material. It doesn't have a lot of integrity to itself. So, you have to be a little aggressive in how you conserve that. And so, we basically got it back into shape. We created an underform that would mimic, without having Tobias's life cast or anything like that. Had to reverse engineer, like, what does this need to look like underneath in order to fit this thing on the outside, and then adhere stuff and re-support things and put some internal patching to hold things up and stuff like that. And the end result, it's funny, it's not as dramatic as some of our other before and afters. I don't know why I keep doing this today. That's fun. Our before and afters, but the end result is kind of striking, and it shows how, and this I've always noticed just as a sculptor, when you're working on a human face, the tiniest adjustment is a massive difference, and you could be sculpting someone and be like, something's a little off in the nasolabial folds around here, and you just move one of them like a 16th of an inch, and all of a sudden it's like, whoop, there it is. And if you were wrong, it's, oh god, it doesn't look anything like him, and then bink, oh yep, nope, now it's good.
Right, yeah. Well, and you've also restored some amazing Star Wars pieces. I would love to hear about one particular Cantina character that you're proud of. Yeah,
that's one of my favorites. People who know me, even people who know of me, probably know the Cantina is like my thing. I have been obsessed with it since the movie came out in 1977, and the opportunity to just be around any of the original Cantina stuff is something that I feel completely fortunate to have had, and over time to have had that often. Nobody gets to say that, to be able to go like, oh yeah, I've been around most of the screen used masks from that movie at some point from that scene, or props and costumes, and to have gotten to know the people that worked on the scene and call some of them good friends now is just crazy to me. Right. But yeah, Muftak is obviously a favorite character of so many people. There he is. So that was in the collection of my good friends Bob and Kathy Burns. Kathy is sadly no longer with us. Bob actually is doing great, and this is a piece that he got from Rick Baker back probably in the 80s. It had been at Rick's studio for years, hanging out, collecting shop dust and all of that stuff, and then it went to Bob's place, and it was on a kind of a coat rack kind of stand. It wasn't really anything that was made to conserve the piece, and over time, gravity was having its way with it. The materials were starting to deteriorate. Some of the stitching was coming undone. Things were separating. The foam underneath was deteriorating a bit, and the fur was extremely matted and dusty. So what you're seeing here, this is actually like stage 3 of our work. So this is us shampooing Muftak, which we did twice. That's Melissa on the left with me and Christine on the right. Both still with us. Melissa's actually been with us for over 12 years now. Christine over a decade. Both outstanding artists and just customer service people too. Christine now helps run the office. And but yeah, so we got in there. You could see we're giving him a good scritch too. This was something where we treated him. It was technically 3 passes. There was a vacuum pass where we did where you take like a vacuum with a pair of hose over it, like pantyhose, so that you can't accidentally suck something up. And it's a way that you can clean like stuffed animals and stuff. So we did a pass with that first, and that got pretty good. And then we went in and we had a special shampoo for artificial fiber hair, and we used that twice, get all of that muck out, and the end result is really striking. And yeah, there's some of the team. And it was just and Melissa's dog Rocket. Right. But it really it's a dramatic before and after, and it's a piece that I felt so lucky that we could get in studio and save. And it's one of these things where even the feel of it, like when it came in, it felt like every time you touched it, something was going to fall off or something would break. And the hands are latex, and they were breaking down. And we went in and we resupported everything. We put stuffing in things. We added an underform that was made to fit the figure and support that big head. And when he left, he's solid and he's secure, and he just feels like he's ready to face the next 50 years or something like that. And I dare say he looks pretty good.
Fantastic. Looks so good.
Yeah, truly fantastic. And I want to ask you about.
I'm one of 3 people in the world that's ever shampooed a towel.
I mean, seriously, that's nothing to sneeze at.
No. Except
I want to get us.
Maybe you will.
Well, then again, you might absolutely. I want to get us off track again. I'm not going to go with Ghost this time, but I am going to get us into. As much as I love Star Wars, there is one other property that I love almost equally as much, and it's another one that you guys are doing a bunch of work in right now, which is Indiana Jones. I keep seeing these little teases of there's things coming that I know you can't talk about, but tell us about the Indiana Jones work that you guys have been doing. Just go ahead and make me as jealous as you possibly can.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm the same way with Indiana Jones. It is, right up there. There's Star Wars, there's Indy, and then you get in. For me, it goes into like the old Universal monsters and Young Frankenstein and that kind of stuff, and then Ghostbusters and all the Hammer movies, and there's. And Star Trek as well, but and then of course the list just goes on forever because I'm like, and this, and this. But no, Indy is neck and neck. I mean, and how crazy is that you have somebody like George Lucas that spits out not just one completely iconic, timeless, IP for lack of a better word, but Indy as well. That's crazy to think about,
Right.
But yeah, I am so excited about the stuff we've been doing. At the moment on the site, we've got a nice range of decor stuff. We actually, if anybody happened to miss out on our Holy Grail prop replica, we actually just put that on wait list because we're just finishing up shipping most of those. We made 500 of those at the New York shop. And at the end of the process is when we start hitting the wait list up. So if you missed out on that Holy Grail, it's scanned off of the real prop. It's hand painted by my team in New York. They look beautiful. They're really, really consistent with the paint and all of that too. And they come, wrapped in a piece of cloth with twine and the hay around it and everything. It's a really fun piece. And there's going to be a handful available for wait list. So if you missed the Grail, this is the time to visit our site and hit that waitlist button. The stuff you just showed are some wall decor pieces that are still available. So those guys on the end are 15-inch square. They're big and chunky and awesome. And for anybody that didn't already immediately recognize them, they're the dart shooting traps from the Chachapoyan Temple at the beginning of Raiders. They do not shoot darts at anyone.
Oh, man.
It's safe to put in your house. You can walk through a sunbeam and you're fine. Or I guess, no, those were the pressure traps, right? The sunbeam is what kills the Tipo.
Right.
Sorry, Alfred Molina. Sorry for anybody at home. Spoiler alert. Ugh.
Yeah.
But so we love taking stuff like that, though, where it's like, oh, this is a thing that you see in the movie for like a split second, but it's a memorable moment and it's a memorable thing. And like, how can we make something that you can put on your wall out of that? And so, this is something that's digitally sculpted by Kristen Maggi at the shop, who is an outstanding digital artist and has seen scans of tons of original props in all of his work with us. So he understands that feel that original stuff has and brings that into even the recreations like this one. We sculpted up. So 2 of those big guys, they look great on either side of a mantle or a fireplace. And the coolest thing about the indie stuff is you can put a lot of it on the wall and people will come in and just think that you're classy and into like old artifacts, and not that you're a nerd. You know,
That's how I'm going to start selling that to my wife.
that's it. Yeah, look, we're here to back you up. And then, you know, the other thing is the people who do get it, they're going to come in and you could do like the Boba Fett nod, like the little like, you know, like, it's like when Boosh pulls out the thermal detonator. Nice move.
He's like, nice move. I get it.
Art face on the wall. I got you. You know, like one of those. And the other one, of course, though, is the Grail tablet from Last Crusade, which is such a fun movie. And that is based on a high resolution scan of one of the original props. And it's, again, all made in the USA, hand painted, it's rotocast polyurethane resin. It's not polystone or anything. And it's got 2 holes on the back so you can hang it on a wall. That is ours on the top and the movie shot on the bottom for anybody who wasn't sure.
Fedora not included.
Thank you.
Well, that's great. Well, today you also were releasing information about your Wampa. Give us a little bit of information about that. And
yeah. Oh, and it was Nick who was asking about. I'm pointing the wrong way. Nick was asking about the what's coming up from Indiana Jones. So what's coming up is.
We seem to be losing it. Yeah, we're losing it.
I'm so sorry.
You're going through a tunnel.
Oh well, we'll move on. No, so we do have an Indiana Jones prop coming. This is what I can say. Prop replica out on or around first week of February. So very soon. Temple of Doom for the 40th anniversary of the movie. So it's going to be awesome. We just finished got our sign off on our first round of production samples to make sure that everything was right with the castings and the materials and the colors and the paint. And we're in the process of now getting our final Disney Lucasfilm sign-offs and doing all our photos and stuff for the website. It's going to be a mad dash the next couple of weeks as we finish all of that up. And complicating the mad dash is that our entire studio is covered in Wampa hair. So these are the things that we worry about. Oh yeah, there he is.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's
as long as we don't start with an extreme close-up, everybody's going to be fine.
Right. Oh no. So tell us a little bit about this bad boy. This one is so cool.
Thank you. So in the movie, you know, they tried to shoot the Wampa in Finland, Norway, and in the UK with a costume that Stuart Freeborn's team made. And as cool as the costume looked great. The head didn't really look outstanding. And the costume was unfortunately unwieldy. They had a very tall guy in the costume named Des Webb. I believe he was even taller than Peter Mayhew.
Oh, really?
But they had him on like 2.5-foot bucket stilts, and he was just unable to really move around at all. The costume was too heavy, too bulky, all this stuff. So when they came back to the U.S., Phil Tippett and Ken Ralston, John Berg, and all of these guys said, George, you can't put that in our movie. Like, that's like, we're going to be embarrassed. You got to let us do something. And according to Phil, George said, you know, okay, but you got to do it fast. And part of the reason was because they had very little time before the movie was released. But the other part is George probably didn't want to pay too much. So Phil created a small scale puppet to use as an insert for the first time you see the creature. So when he attacks Luke and he does the like, what's the matter, girl? You smell something? And the Wampa pops up and then swipes him. So that first pop-up, that's the puppet. And then after it swipes Luke, it goes back and it roars at the camera again. And that also is the puppet. And then it cuts back to a big life-size arm, you know, strangling the Tauntaun. Again, spoiler alert. Those iconic first looks at the character were actually a, 12-inch tall puppet. And so what we have done is replicated that puppet, which is still in the Lucasfilm archives. It was one of my top things I wanted to see at the archives the first time I went over, it's about 12 years ago now. I was so excited to be going, and that was a big, big reason why I was excited. I was like, oh, I hope it's there. I hope it's not on tour. I've been dying to see this thing in person. And every time I've seen it since, something new has been revealed to me. And we have now seen it 3 times officially. So back in the day, I used to just go to visit, like you do.
Right, sure.
But have since now for years been going officially and going to research things and having stuff pulled for us to get really up close with, not just looking at it on a shelf, but to examine it literally sometimes for days, measuring it and 3D laser scanning it and color matching things and bringing in swatches of hair and fur and matching things and eyes and teeth and all kinds of fun stuff. Every time we saw it, it's just something new would come out. There would be some new element that we would find or discover. And this replica is a culmination of all of that work. And I'm really, really proud of what we put together. It's something where we went back to the drawing board a few times on this because we made new discoveries. And what's hilarious is the most recent discoveries that actually I was like ready to do the final paint on our final prototype, and I wound up having to we wound up redoing the insides of the mouth, because the last time we went to the archives a few months ago, we took an endoscope and we actually put the endoscope into the mouth and got to see teeth that were so far in the back that you couldn't see them, and to discover a couple of things on either side of the tongue and stuff like that. And we, of course, now, scrapped our current thing, updated our files, redid the output, redid the prototypes, and then that became our final. And it's hilarious because then after the fact, we're going, well, wait a second. If you can't see it unless you literally have like an endoscope, who's ever going to know this is in here? Why are we doing this? And the reason is because that's us. That's what we do.
That's what you guys do.
It's a testament to who you guys are.
And there is no detail too small.
And speaking of details, I was watching the Facebook Live this afternoon, and you said something that was really interesting. Tell us about the back of the Wampa, because
yeah. So this is one of those weird times. So we have to decide sometimes whether we're going to be replicating what the prop is, replicating what the prop looks like on screen, replicating how it is now, replicating how it was then. And so there's a lot of these discussions go on where sometimes we'll find like one of the maquettes. We've been doing these replicas of concept maquettes from Return of the Jedi, which are just amazing little sculptures by people like Phil Tippett and Ken Ralston and Dave Carson and Chris Wayless and Judy Elkins and all of these amazing artists that contributed to, and if I didn't say Tippett, contributed to this scene in Jabba's palace and created all of these amazing monsters. And sometimes going through those, they'll have like a piece broken off. And I'm like, if we can find vintage reference that shows us that piece was definitely on it during the production of the movie, we will usually put it back. And if we can't, then sometimes we have to say that, okay, maybe this is how it was at the time, and that's the way we're going to make this. With the Wampa, when Phil made it, he only cared about the side facing the camera. And the very back of the Wampa, the middle back section, is just exposed, chopped up couch foam and mechanisms. So we couldn't really deliver that to people's homes. So instead, we actually finished the back with fur and distressing and everything like that, and made it a more complete piece. Basically, we did Phil's job for him. Come on. But it's a wicked little piece, and it's something. It's actually, I keep saying little. It's pretty substantial, especially when you compare it to a lot of those maquettes that we've been doing. But yeah, it's about 13 inches tall on the base. The base is 19 1/4 wide, so decent shelf presence. About 12 inches deep too.
It looks truly fantastic.
So great. So it's available now for order?
So it goes up for order on the 20th of February at 12 noon Eastern. We have two different editions. There's a Phil Tippett Signature Edition, and then there is a Phil Tippett Legacy Edition. Our Legacy Editions are sketch editions. And what we do is we have the artist make 100 unique hand-drawn sketches, and you get one of those hand-drawn sketches with everyone in that edition. So if you pick up the Legacy Edition, you get a hand-drawn sketch by Phil Tippett and a Phil Tippett autograph and a Wampa. So really, really something that is super unique, super special, very rare when you're talking only 100 or something in the world. And the legacy edition on this is $2,999, all hand finished in New York, hand painted, hand stained teeth, all the muck, all the grime, all the hair, all the stuff dripped into the hair, etc. And then $24.99 for the signature edition. There are only 125 signature edition pieces available, only 100 legacy editions available.
Wow.
When we did our last legacy edition with Phil Tippett, that was the Rancor maquette,
Mhm.
and the 100 pieces for that one sold out in 10 minutes.
Holy cow.
I don't know how this one's going to sell. It's a little bit more of a higher price point, but it's a more popular piece so far, at least judging by the reaction we've seen on social. It's going to be a very interesting week, that's for sure. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, anybody interested should stop by our site on the 20th at noon. I would not be late. And I would also say, go to the Regal Robot website and sign up for the email newsletter. And then that way, whenever something like this comes out, you'll get an email telling you it's coming out. We don't spam people. We don't send out a bunch of nonsense. So, we only send details when something new is coming out or we have a coupon.
And there's always great stuff, and as we said before, like there's indie stuff, there's Star Wars stuff, there's so much stuff coming down the pike. So, Tom, we could keep you here for days talking about this, but the good news is you got more stuff coming, which means we need to have you come back on, tell us some more stories. We'll have you on again sometime. Tom, give that website address one more time.
Absolutely. Go to either tomspinadesigns.com, regalrobot.com, and look at Tom Spina Designs or at Regal Robot on all the socials, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that. And by the way, please, if you're on Facebook, look up the Regal Robot Fan and Collector Showcase group. Really, really fun group. A lot of great people, a lot of humor there, and a lot of behind-the-scenes pictures you're not going to see, and contests for things like production used pieces from the movies and books and magazines and all kinds of fun stuff. So, yeah, definitely check that out.
It's a good group. I'm in there. It's fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Tom, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We're so excited to see more stuff coming, and we will be keeping up with you, and we're definitely having you come back sometime.
Terrific. I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a great night.
Thanks, Tom. And we'll be back with more ATG Live. And we are back, man. We could have spent, I wasn't kidding. Like, we could have gone for days with Tom. That was
seriously, like, I've made a list of questions of things that I want to ask him about that I'm either going to have to email him or wait till he comes back. There's so many different, and he talked about going to visit the Lucasfilm archives. Like, I just want to go visit Regal Robot. Like, I want to go hang out and watch them work and do their thing. Like, that sounds equally as cool. So, yeah, always great to see him, to see what they're working on. And it always has me looking around my studio and looking around my collection going, what can I sell so I can go buy some of their stuff?
Oh man, I'll tell you, the what is it? The Tauntaun head is on my bucket list, which I think is probably not even available anymore. But I got my clanker here, but if I could put a Tauntaun head on this side,
you'd have it made.
That would finish everything up. But we are in our intercepted transmission section of the night, so why don't we get to that?
Where are those transmissions you intercepted?
All right, we are back. We got some comments in the chat during the evening, but let's start
Yeah.
with a phone call. We have to go to Enid, Oklahoma, and hear what's happening there.
Hey, fellas, it's Matthew and Enid. Hey, I ran into my old mailman named Mike, and I knew he was kind of a Star Wars fan, so I asked him a couple of questions for you for your Tales from Enid. Now, I was telling us last week, but he said his favorite character is Boba Fett because everybody loves Boba Fett, and it was the coolest character, action figure in the history of Star Wars because of the no-end thing, which we all knew that. And I asked him his favorite Star Wars memory, and he's from Puerto Rico, so he said his favorite Star Wars memory was getting to go see the Empire Strikes Back in the theater and getting to see the life-size replicas of R2-D2 and C-3PO. I don't know. I tried to catch the pastor at my son's little school, but I didn't catch him this week, so he's my big fish. I want to talk to the pastor about Star Wars, but I haven't got him yet. But there's always next week. He knows I'm hunting for him, so I'm going to catch him. All right, fellas. I'll be listening Thursday. Take it easy. All right. Bye.
Yeah. The pastor and the Star Wars. That's always a good combination.
That's
I think we got to send him a camera, or just like ask him to use his phone and have these conversations, just to make it more lively.
It's the best, like, man on the street since, like, Jay Leno went out and asked Americans questions that they didn't know the answers to. Like, every week, I'm like, who is Matt going to corner? How is that going to turn out? This is the reality series I didn't know that I needed.
Right. And how are they gonna screw it up so that it does feel like that Jay Leno? Because they're Dark Vader from a couple weeks ago.
Dark Vader, that's it. Yeah.
I'm making a t-shirt of that. All right, we do have one more call, so I'm gonna bring that in, and it is our good friend Eric Elliott from Honest to Claude. Let's check it out.
Hi, ATG and FSW network. I know it's been a while since a message has gone through. On Valentine's night, my dog passed away, Malcolm, and I was thinking to myself as a question, is there any death or passing in Star Wars media that helped you deal with personal death? Maybe you connected to a character in their loss. Best of wishes. I hope you have a good day. Zillow gang.
Oh man.
Sorry to hear that, Eric, man. Our condolences. It's I was gonna say funny, but it's ironic and strange. Like when people lose a pet, man, it is not easy. So we definitely
It's legit.
feel for you.
Yeah. And I'm a dog man, and we're a dog house, so I feel that. And that's a great question. I haven't considered that question really. And as you were saying it, and as the call was wrapping up, I was already starting to think I don't know. I don't know what kind of death I've dealt with. And I guess I'm very fortunate to be able to say that, in recent years, what kinds of death have I had to deal with that Star Wars helped me through? I will say the death that has probably impacted me the most in Star Wars has actually been Kanan. And we talk about that a lot with Rebels, and, that scene, even watching that scene now, like it catches me out, and, I have to just go, it was so well done and it was so powerful. And when he looks at Hera and says, I always saw you, or I could always see you, or whatever it was, like there's such power in those moments. And I love that Star Wars can be something that we can carry with us through those troubled times, those difficult times. So Eric, I'm certainly sending good vibes your way, thoughts to you, thoughts to Malcolm. But I hope that you are also able to use your Star Wars to kind of help you with that. Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like you, I can't pin it to a specific character or a situation, and of course, growing up with the original trilogy, and when Carrie Fisher passed away, and then when her character passed away in Rise of Skywalker, it was probably to me the hardest part of watching that movie. So yeah, I mean it's never easy, but where I was going with that is the fact you referenced it, Nick, and that is Star Wars is a good escape, and that's what it does best. And there are some times you just throw on your favorite episode, or maybe pick up your favorite comic book if you're Chris Ryan's, or whatever you're into, and just just go there, and that's great. And I appreciate, Eric, you including us in your family enough to tell us that, and to ask us a question as it relates to that. So yeah. Nick, what do we have from comments from the day?
We have just a few comments. A couple of these I'm gonna throw Woodsy up here right off the bat because you said, "Whoa!" You said you're Clanker. He said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Did you just say Clanker? I thought this show was inclusive." Throwing your disparaging Clanker in there.
Yeah, it's well, it's because I got the Rex beard. I feel like I should say Clanka.
Yeah,
Clankus.
You're owed that one. I also want to take it back to beginning. We were talking about Mace Windu in the news. Also from Woodsy, he said, "I love Mace, but what his death symbolizes for Anakin and him really being Vader's first slain Jedi." And that's an excellent point.
Yeah. That's true, and that's why he's got to stay dead. He's got to stay dead. I'll stick with that. I will. I'll be fine with him. De-age him. He's been de-aged in what was it, Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah. So de-age him again.
90, Sam. Well, and I think he's gonna be gone. Chris maybe has a point. Sam wants that paycheck. There's nothing wrong with dropping some Disney dollars. Your shill checks come every month too, so you know how that works. One more from Woodsy, also talking about Sam and talking about Mace. Nobody was cooler than Sam Jackson talking about his lightsaber while wearing his Kangol bucket hat and a WWF New York jacket. So
yeah,
the peak of cool in the 90s was probably, Sam Jackson getting to say, "Yeah, I went to George Lucas and I told him I wanted purple." He's got that swag. He's got that gravitas.
I love that even George Lucas didn't even bat an eye. They went through a whole process for Ewan to pick out his saber hilt and all that stuff. But Sam is like, purple for me. And we're like, yep. All right. You got it.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and one more, and this is just a throwing out there welcome. Hoth Hangout was in the chat tonight.
Hey,
great job. First time watching the show. So thank you for being here. We always love it when new folks pop in, hang out with us. Always glad to see you. We hope we will see you again soon.
Yes. And when we see you next week, we will have a special guest. It will be Mr. Corey Ryan Forrester, the Buttercream Dream himself, will be hanging out with us next Thursday night, talking Star Wars, talking about his book and his comedy special. And just bringing his, I will be outnumbered because it will be two Southern boys.
That's right. Finally.
Tonight it was two New York, Philly area dudes. And next week it's going to be two Southerners.
I don't want to say the South will rise again, but it'll just be two Southern dudes.
Well, you're that unique blend of Southern and liberal moderate, which is a very interesting combination.
And having been born in Illinois, I'm just a weird mix of I don't know what I am.
Well, we still have the interview with Rachel Leishman in the podcast stream. If you haven't checked that out, please do so. I'll tell you what I got out of that interview was, we have a lot of millennial friends, but talking to her and just there's perspectives that she brings about the Phantom Menace that we recorded before the Empire Magazine thing dropped, and it changed the way I looked at certain things to the Phantom Menace just from her perspective. So check that interview out. We have an interview coming up next week. We are going to be kind of going in the Indiana Jones files for a little bit coming up. I know that's rough for you. And we got a bunch of fun things happening. We got Podathon coming on May the 4th this year. More information starting to come out from that is starting to pick up, but Make-A-Wish Foundation, we're going to actually probably open up that donation site shortly, and you can start donating way ahead of time, and that way you can donate multiple times because you're not going to remember and you're going to feel like you need to donate again. And we're gonna crush that number and raise some money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Nick, anything else to add, or are we good?
I think that's it. Let's throw this out there one more time because by the time we are on the air again next Thursday, the first 3 episodes of Bad Batch will have aired.
Yes.
That's when you want to hit this voicemail number right here. I managed to get the point correct the
that
first try.
Perfect.
504-321-1501. After you watch Bad Batch next week, whenever it's over, if it's 3:00 in the morning, it doesn't matter. It's a voicemail. It's not going to wake either one of us up. Call us and leave us your thoughts. We're going to figure out how we're going to incorporate, because we're coming back into another fun phase with this show where we're on Thursdays. The show's going to be on Wednesdays. We're not going to do full, recaps and that kind of stuff, but we'll work in how we want to talk about Bad Batch. But voicemails are going to be a great way for us to do that. So leave us your thoughts. Give us a call, 504-321-1501. and we want to hear what you think about Bad Batch, because
I
we'll
would-
have thoughts for sure.
Yeah, I would much rather hear your thoughts than Nick's thoughts on it. So
And
please leave a message.
wait,
I know you,
I mean-
I know you don't want to hear my thoughts. So leave us your messages 504-321-1501. And again, the caller of the week is going to get a sticker like this one that says "Woke up and watched Star Wars." Or I have another one here, Shillsbury. You want the Shillsbury Doughboy? So,
Yep.
Nick, it has been so much fun hanging out with you tonight, talking to Tom and having a good time. May the Force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.